Beneath a hill in central China, there is a tomb that has never been opened. Not by looters, not by archaeologists, not in over 2,000 years. Inside, according to a historian who wrote just a century after the emperor's death, flow rivers of liquid mercury shaped into miniature replicas of China's great waterways, flowing by hidden machinery beneath a ceiling inlaid with pearls standing in for stars. For decades, historians dismissed this as legend. Then, in the 1980s, scientists tested the soil above the mound. The mercury levels were off the charts, so the legend is real. But that raises the question no one has been able to answer. If we know the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, is down there, filled with treasures beyond counting, why, in over 40 years of excavating everything around it, has no one ever dared to open it? In 1974, this story began not with an emperor, but with farmers. A group of villagers in Shanxi province were digging a well during a drought when their shovels struck something that wasn't stone. It was a face, life-sized, made of clay, staring up at them from the earth. As they kept digging, they found another, and another. What they had stumbled onto was the edge of an underground army. Thousands of terracotta soldiers standing in battle formation, exactly as they had for over 2,000 years, waiting for a war that would never come. The man they were built to guard was Qin Shi Huang. Around 221 BCE, he did something no ruler before him had managed. He ended centuries of warring kingdoms and unified them into a single empire, China. He standardized the writing system, the currency, even the width of cart axles. He began the first version of the Great Wall. He was, by any measure, one of the most consequential rulers in human history. He was also, historians agree, consumed by a single obsession, not conquest, immortality. He sent expeditions across the seas, searching for a mythical elixir of eternal life. He consulted alchemists who fed him pills laced with mercury, believing the metal's strange, liquid permanence could be transferred to the human body. Ancient records suggest the very thing he took to cheat death may have quietly poisoned him for years. And when eternal life failed him, he prepared for the alternative on a scale the world had never seen. Work on his tomb is said to have begun the moment he took the throne as a teenager, and continued for nearly 40 years. Sima Qian, the historian writing roughly a century later, claimed 700,000 laborers worked on the site. Modern historians debate the exact number, but the scale of the necropolis uncovered so far, nearly the size of a small city, leaves little doubt it was one of the largest construction projects in the ancient world. Here is where the story turns. The Terracotta Army, those 8,000 or so soldiers, no two faces alike, was never meant to be found. It sits over a mile from the actual burial mound, one outer ring in a buried complex of palaces, stables, and administrative offices, a mirror of the emperor's living court, built to serve him in the next world. And at the center of all of it lies the one chamber no living person has entered since the men who sealed it walked out. Sima Qian described what waits inside with unsettling precision. Crossbows rigged to fire automatically at anyone who breached the walls, a ceiling painted with constellations, and those rivers of mercury, pumped in loops to represent the Yangtze and Yellow rivers, flowing endlessly around a miniature replica of the empire the emperor had built. For most of the 20th century, this read like myth, poetic exaggeration from a historian writing generations after the fact. Then came the soil tests. Surveys of the mound above the tomb revealed mercury concentrations dramatically higher than the surrounding earth. A chemical signature with no natural explanation, sitting exactly where the ancient text said a mercury river should be. The legend wasn't legend. It was a 2,000-year-old field report. So if we already know this much, the scale, the mercury, the layout described in ancient texts, why has the tomb itself never been opened? The honest answer has less to do with mystery and everything to do with a lesson archaeologists learned the hard way. When the terracotta warriors were first pulled from the ground in the 1970s, they weren't the dull grey-brown figures you see in photographs today. They were painted, vivid reds, blues and purples, faces and armor rendered in full color. Within minutes of exposure to open air, that paint began to curl, flake, and vanish. Entire figures lost their original color before anyone could preserve them. China had accidentally destroyed evidence while trying to save it. That failure became doctrine. Chinese archaeologists now operate under a standing policy. Do not excavate what you cannot yet preserve. And the central chamber of Qin Shi Huang's tomb is, by every measure, the highest stakes unopened site on Earth. Sealed for over 2 millennia, in conditions no one fully understands, potentially still filled with liquid mercury under pressure, silk, lacquer, and organic material that could disintegrate the moment air touches it. Ground-penetrating scans and remote sensing, conducted without ever breaking the seal, have confirmed a chamber roughly the size of a football field beneath that hill, and mercury readings consistent with Sima Qian's account. But no camera, no drill, no human hand has gone further. China has effectively decided that some questions are worth leaving unanswered until the technology exists to answer them without destroying the answer itself. If you've been pulled into what else lies waiting under the surface of history, hit subscribe, because next we're heading beneath a very different empire to unearth a tomb that almost nobody was supposed to find at all. There's something quietly radical in that restraint. In an age of drones, ground-penetrating radar, and robotic probes, the most powerful tool archaeologists have found is patience. The emperor who tried to defy death by sealing himself beneath rivers of poison and a painted sky may have gotten something close to what he wanted after all. Not immortality of the body, but an afterlife no one has dared to disturb. Somewhere under a quiet hill in Shanxi, an emperor is still waiting. And for now, at least, he still is.